In the previous episodes on modular expressiveness, we played with dynamics, articulation and tempo. We've been able to add a lot of color to our melodies without ever changing one single note. Today it's time to break this final boundary and see how to embellish our melodies. Let's talk about ornaments. Nearly every musical tradition has ornaments. They are notes that do not belong to the melody, so if we remove them, the melody is still recognizable, so they do not change its nature. Instead, they make it more singable, more human, if we want. It is very likely that at least one song that you heard in the past 24 hours has some kind of ornaments. Let's take, for example, this melody. I can play it straight away like I just did, or I can add some ornaments like this. You can feel that the melody is the same, but in the second version it had more color and expressiveness. As I said before, every musical tradition has their own kind of ornaments. Sometimes they might be more coded, sometimes they might be more free and open to the performance inspiration, but for the sake of clarity we will stick to the Western music notation to explain what can we do with our modular synthesizer. As always, if you are familiar with other musical tradition and other ornaments, let us know in the comments below. Even in Western classical music, ornaments are often up to the performer's choice, so the Western notation has often struggled to write them down in an unambiguous way. So if we were to write them down explicitly, note by note, we may end up with a very cluttered stuff, and the melody might lose its nature, at least at first sight. So over the time in European classical music, they developed a system of symbols to place above or below or beside the notes to indicate a specific kind of ornament. Let us start with grace notes. Grace notes are some extra notes that we play before one of the notes of the main melody. They can be played on the beat, thus taking the space of the note that comes after, or they can even be played off beat, thus taking some space of the note that comes before. There are two main grace note symbols called appoggiatura and acciaccatura. In general, an appoggiatura takes half of the time of the note it refers to. We can write it like this. An acciaccatura, on the other hand, is a quick note that can be played on or off beat, like this. And now we will see how to incorporate them in our modular patches. Okay, so this patch will demonstrate the appoggiatura, and to do so I set up two patterns, one playing the bass with slow, low notes, and another one playing the lead, which is our brain's sawtooth. We have some missing stages in this pattern, and these missing stages will become our appoggiaturas. I already entered some voltages, and I will create an appoggiatura through the stage length. I will hold the chorus button and pay attention to what happens to the stage length. You can see that as I rotated this encoder, I was at the same time subtracting the stage length from this one. This feature is called maintain pattern length and allows me to change the duration of a stage without affecting the whole pattern, thus balancing it with the following one. And I can create some appoggiaturas. Reset the sequence. Now this is pretty flat, but I can give some notes back like this. And this is with our appoggiaturas on the strong beat. Something that I can do also is hold down the track button and rotate the pattern. So now my appoggiatura will be off beat. Okay, so to demonstrate the acciaccatura, which is a very fast note, not necessarily in a timer relationship with the main one, I will use a workaround, and I won't rely on the whole time unit thing. So I will enter, to demonstrate this technique, I need to enter the track menu and quantize my melody. Now, since I am playing in a minor scale, natural minor scale, I will quantize it to my Aeolian mode, which is the natural minor. You can see that the quantization has no effect whatsoever because my melody was already in tune, and you will see in a minute why I did so. What I want to do is to trig an extra envelope, so I'm gonna use my gate B to fire an envelope on these 3 notes, and I will patch it to this spare FALISTRI channel here. And then I will patch my FALISTRI output to CVA and route the CVA. I use the unipolar output, and I will route the CVA to pitch shift A. You can hear this very wide sweep, but since my track is quantized, if I use a very small envelope, I can just make it pitch shift up and down by just 1 note, and to do so I might use the attenuated output. There it is. I can make it faster. And I can even play an acciaccatura from below my note, as I said before. Okay, so, but what if I want to make some acciaccaturas above and some other below the note? My advice here is use the 4-quadrant multiplier. And since my unipolar output is already routed to one of its inputs, I'm going to use a CVB to amplify it or invert it, since a 4-quadrant multiplier can be thought of as a voltage controlled attenuverter. So I'm gonna enter my track menu and set my CVB to bipolar, because I might need a negative voltage, and I'm going to set all the stages to 0 volts, so I have no envelope here, and I can give it this one. So this is a negative one, and this can be a positive one. And I can add as many envelopes as I want. Providing that they always match a voltage. And I can play with the envelope duration to make the acciaccatura faster or slower. And the cool thing about this is that all this editing is not destructive, so I can take my cable off anytime and go back to my original sequence. Another cool ornament is the mordent. Instead of adding an extra note above or below our main note, we actually add 2 of them. We start from the main note, we go 1 note up or 1 note down, and then we return to it very quickly. Now this is the patch that we left before, and the mordent, as a matter of fact, is fairly simple because I just need to add some attack to my envelope. I am still using the CVB to add a positive or negative multiplication to my envelope so that I can have upwards or downwards mordents. More complicated is the turn, where we play the note above our main note, then we play the main note, then we play the note below, and then we return to the main note. So there are 3 extra notes before our melodic note. We can even have an inverted turn that works in the same way but starts from the note below. So the turn is more complicated because I needed to go above and below the target note. I could use a bipolar signal instead of a unipolar one, but the point is that a bipolar envelope rests at a negative value, and if it does so, when my envelope is not playing, my CVA will still receive a negative offset that will transpose all the following notes. So here's what I came up with. I'm going to patch my bipolar output to my 4-quadrant multiplier, and then patch my 4-quadrant multiplier to my CVA. You can hear that the melody is now transposed, and I need something that pulls my envelope back to 0 once it has ended its falling stage. So my idea is to use my end of rise and patch it to the 4-quadrant multiplier. So now I have the end of rise, which is a gate high signal that stays high for the whole falling stage. So whenever my envelope is falling right now, this gate high will open the 4-quadrant multiplier and let the bipolar signal sweep through its whole range. Now once the end of fall, once we reach the end of fall, the end of rise will go off and will completely close or multiply by 0 my bipolar envelope, so it will output a steady 0-volt signal. I had to tweak the 4-quadrant multiplier output to a very low value to appreciate the turn, but you can really hear that we have a dee-dee-doo-dee kind of sound. Probably the most famous ornament is the trill, where we quickly alternate multiple times between the note that is written on the stuff and the note above or below it. Usually a trill is fairly long and takes up all the note duration. So for the trill, we're gonna rely on the same principle. I'm gonna return to the basic patch with my attenuated output patch to the CVA to perform pitch shift, but instead of firing an envelope with a gate, I will use longer gates in my gate B track, like this, and this, for example, to force this envelope to loop. And the longer is the gate, the longer will be the trill. For example, I can have a shorter trill here. So far, we have been using USTA's quantization to achieve diatonic ornaments, meaning that they use only the notes of the scale they refer to. Some traditions, however, have also chromatic ornaments, meaning that they use notes that do not belong to the current tonality, for example in jazz or some Eastern European folk traditions. And some other traditions also have microtonal ornaments, meaning that they don't even play with the 12-tone scale. Let us see how USTA can help us achieving these special flavors. So now, for example, I have set my track to 24 Ido, so I am playing quarter tones, and I can use the same trick, and you will hear so these are microtonal embellishments. And you can really use your own custom temperaments and custom scales, so there is literally no limits to this kind of expressiveness. So this was another chapter of our modular expressiveness journey. If you missed the previous one, I linked to them in the description. As always, the point is not to throw all of these techniques in our patches all the time, but rather to know that they are there in case we need them. If you have other expressiveness techniques that you'd like to see covered in this video, let us know in the comments below. As always, I hope you found this video useful, and I will see you next time.